To go ahead and move on to the NestJS Auth Guard. So that way we can then protect different routes. So a user has to be logged in with a valid JWT in order to access those routes. Okay, so let's go ahead and return to our NestJS authentication documentation. And there's a whole section about implementing the Auth Guard. Okay, so our Auth Guard protects endpoints by requiring a valid JWT be present on the request. So I am going to go ahead and I'm going to copy this entire bit of code here. So I went over this in the Zoom session a little bit, but here is kind of my thoughts on copying code. I think you should not copy code that you don't understand. But I think that you can copy code. Like, you shouldn't use code that you don't understand. But you can copy code and play around with it and get to a point where you can understand it. And then if you can, then you can use it. So the first time that I saw this Auth Guard, I didn't understand it and I didn't know how it worked. But what I can do is I can paste it into my project and then I can throw a bunch of console logs in it in order to understand what's going on. If I can understand what's going on, then I can use it. Okay, so as you can see, we have, we're importing the JWT constants that we don't have. So we're going to get rid of that. And we are going to change this to hard-coded secret. Okay? So now we have an Auth Guard. The idea is that this Auth Guard is going to catch a request before it makes it into the route and functions start doing things to the request, right? And it's going to figure out whether or not the request is allowed to continue on, okay? So it's going to first get the request, all right? Then it's going to extract the token from the header by calling this method here, all right? So a request has headers, and then within the headers, there is an authorization property, all right? And so what this is essentially doing is when you send a request, you can send a bearer token. So it's looking for a bearer token and then it's splitting the bearer off of it, okay? And then returning the token, all right? So even if I don't understand all the ins and outs, I know that it's extracting the token from the header. So I would probably console log the token. I would practice with sending different requests and I would figure out, okay, this is what it's doing. All right, if there's no token at all, that token just doesn't exist, right? Then we'll throw an error because the whole point of this guard is to check for a code token, make sure it's there and make sure it's valid. So if it's not there, then the person's not authorized to continue, okay? If there is a token, we're going to do this block here. We're going to do what's in the try, okay? With a try block, you're going to attempt to do what's in this block. And if you can, yay. And if you can't, then you're going to fall to the catch block, okay? So we're going to say a payload, all right, is going to be, we're going to be getting the payload from the JWT. So we're going to take the token, okay, and we're going to verify that it's a valid token. The way we're going to do that is we're going to decode that token using the secret, okay? So as long as this secret matches the secret that we set up here, which it does, if the token is valid, then we'll be able to get a payload out of here, okay? Then we're going to say that that request that's coming in, we're going to add a property called user to the request, and we're going to set it equal to the payload that we just decoded here. So we're going to decode the JWT, which if you remember in the service when we were making the access token, we made the access token with the user ID and the username. That's what the payload is, okay? And then we turn it into a token. So here, we're just doing the opposite. We're decoding the token in order to get that user ID and that username, all right? And then we're setting a property on the request with the user ID and the username, all right? If that doesn't work, if we're not able to do that, meaning this token's not valid, okay, then we're gonna throw an unauthorized exception. So we're either throwing an unauthorized exception if there's no token at all, or if the token cannot be verified, okay? If it makes it through all of that, then that means the token is valid. And so we are going to return true, which means that the request can keep on keeping on, okay? So this is the guard that we are going to use. All right, so here they're adding a route for profile to get the user information, okay? And they're gonna use their guard here to do it. So we'll set up something similar to test, all right? Because when you're doing the sign up route, you don't need a token to sign up. The whole point of signing up is to get your token, okay? We already have that working. We already have the token being sent back, okay, and saved on the front end. So here, we wanna create a route. We'll make it a get route. We're gonna say get user details. We're going to say get user. We're going to add a request. We're going to use that rec term to reference the request, okay? So then we are going to go ahead and let's go ahead and say here is your user. Right? And then we are going to, so let's just return rec.user. We want to get request from NestJS common. Let's go ahead and add that. Out. And then we need get apparently too. So if rec return rec.user, else return no request. Okay, so the reason I'm doing this is because the way that we are getting this rec.user is through the guard, okay? So here's the request with the property user, okay, being set equal to the payload. So first, I just want to test that we're able to access this endpoint, right? So right now, the endpoint is not protected. So it's auth/user details, okay? I'm not setting anything with my header. There's no headers, okay? There's no authorization token. Here's where you would put it in, bearer token, and you paste it into a token, okay? There's nothing in there, okay? So now I'm gonna press send, all right, and I get nothing back. Well, I guess there is a rec, so we're gonna say if rec.user. Okay, I was like, why is nothing coming back? Because there is a request coming in, but okay, so no, I'm gonna say no user instead. Okay, so here the route is not protected by our AuthGuard at all. So you can see that we're actually getting something out of it, okay? There's nothing in that rec user property, okay? Because the guard is not adding anything, all right? And so all we're returning is there's no user, nothing happened, okay? So now let's go ahead and let's add this use guards, auth guards to it, okay? All right, so now I'm not gonna add a token, I'm not gonna do anything. I'm just going to click send, okay? And I'm gonna guess what's going to happen, all right? So I'm using the guard, which means that the request is first going to go through this auth guard here, Okay, so I'm going to add some console logs so I can see what's happening. All right, then let's add a console log for our token. All right, so I send. All right, so we got a long request with all of the things, right? All right, so this is what's getting extracted here. And then you can see that the request gets sent to the extract token from header, right? And here we return undefined because there is no bearer token, okay? So we fell into the if not token, throw new unauthorized exception. Perfect. Okay, so now I'm going to add a no token, 1, 2, 3, 4, okay? And I'm going to try again. I'm going to restart my server so that way my console is free. And we click send. All right, this time there is a token. All right, so when there is a token, we're going to get past this part and we're going to end up in here. Okay, so let's go ahead and let's look at what let's look at what this payload is. Does anything come back? Let's see. All right, so we get to the token 1, 2, 3, 4, but as you can see, we try to verify, but it errors out, so it ends up going to the catch block. All right, so let's see if we can then try to catch the error. All right, and then let's go ahead and see if there is something to console log. All right, JWT malformed. That's perfect. So that's saying that this JWT that we sent is not an actual JWT, which is true because it's just me typing in 1, 2, 3, 4. But through these console logs and through testing out the Auth Guard, I can understand what's going on, okay? If I don't have any token at all, I'm gonna get an error here, okay? If I do get a token, I'm gonna get error here, all right? So through console logs, if I didn't understand the guard before, I do now, okay? So I'm gonna take my console logs out because I feel like I have a good understanding of what's happening. And I am going to generate an actual token, and then I'm gonna add it to see if now I can get. All right, so I already have Callie Stowe's Cup in the database, so we're going to have to make a new one. Okay, I'm gonna call this test 1, so that way we can just add a 2. Okay, so I'm gonna click sign up. I got a token back, which is exciting. So I'm going to copy the token, and then I'm going to move it over here, get it pasted in, and I'm going to click send. And as you can see, I put in a valid token. So the guard returns true because we got through everything, okay? And so then the guard adds the user property to the request. So then when we console log the user property on the request here, or we don't console log, but we return it, we're saying if that property exists, return it, okay? But you notice that it only exists if we add this guard. If we take the guard away, we're gonna get the no user, okay? Because the guard is what is adding the user information to the request. All right, so this token is set to expire in 60 seconds, all right? So if we wait long enough, then we will also have an issue, okay? But see that we have username test 1. So if you were going to actually use this route here to get the user, okay, you could then take this username here, all right, to then go and get the user from the database, all right? So let's see if this expired yet. Perfect, it expired. So now we have message unauthorized 401, right? And that is erroring. We still have the token because we sent the token with it, but it's erroring because the payload can't be verified. So let's go ahead and console log that error again, and let's see if we get a different error. All right, so this token should be expired. Yep, and it says JWT expired. All right, so perfect. But if I go ahead and I sign up again, oh, username already exists, so let's go ahead and switch this to test2, 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 send. All right, so we got a new token, and we should be able to go to here and paste it in, send, and now it works. And then we also have that token belongs to the username test2. All right, so that is our Auth Guard. All right, we have the Auth Guard in place. Okay, there's still a few more things to do in terms of uploading the photo and setting up the email service, okay? But in terms of functionality, everything functions pretty well, okay? So I would say that in the next video, we're gonna move into the login user story. All right, happy coding.